Welcome, welcome, welcome to the She Show. My name is Helena Das, and I am so excited to be back on the Medicine of the Horse movement, if you will, as the founder and host of the Medicine of the Horse online summit that I birthed a couple of years ago. And I have felt the call, the nudge recently from Spirit to really expand and go deeper on this conversation of the medicine of the horse, and specifically around how the medicine of the horse actually empowers the sacred feminine. And for all the women who love horses and work with horses and have horses or drawn to their spirit, really how we can more consciously, partner together to help each other heal and transform and elevate our lives. And I want to take a moment, in case you are new to my world, to let you know that I have gone from renegade vet for over 2 decades, to horse shaman, to these days I'm calling myself a shepreneur, and she is an acronym I coined that stands for Sacred Horse Energy. So whether it is the She for the She Show or being a shepreneur, I'm really on a mission and very deeply devoted and passionate, again, around empowering the sacred feminine with the medicine of the horse. And what does that mean? I know that can seem a bit vague, and to just further clarify that, really, it has to do with learning from their wisdom, their energy, working with their energy. I actually channel their energy. I work with the collective spirit of the horse called the Wind Horse Herd, who at one time lovingly called me a wind horse woman. And I am really passionate about partnering with them on a multidimensional metaphysical level to help the humans, the women especially, again, who I feel just we have a very special bond with horses in a different way than men do. And this is no offense to any conscious horsemen out there, but I definitely feel like there's this vibrational resonance of really where we're traveling, we're rising together and learning that we have a right, a divine birthright to actually have a voice and have a choice, and to really reclaim our sovereignty, our freedom, our wholeness, and our personal power. And so this piece, for me, I feel mirrors so well in the work that I do with mostly women, again, where we are bringing in the wisdom and the energy and the spirit of the horse that I channel, and in the horse codes and the source codes that are helping with the healing process on a deep energetic and soul level. So with that being said, again, I was inspired to just open up this conversation and connect with more women who are really, in the simplest, way or state, they love horses, right? And they work with them, they partner with them, maybe they communicate with them, maybe they are facilitators or trainers or trimmers or healers or guides, whatever the case may be, but they really have this special bond and connection. And so this series, this conversation, is to really honor them and honor horse, and just deepen the conversation of our sacred love for these incredible animals, who I will say have been my sacred medicine on my Shiro's journey, both in healing from physical issues, chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, at one time diagnosed with chronic Lyme's and early onset Addison's, as well as healing from past sexual trauma, as someone who is part of the Me Too movement. And so I share all this because I want to really honor the depth and the breadth, and the profound magic and healing that can happen when we are playing in the quantum field and also bringing in horse and what I like to call the horse codes and the source codes into this place. So, um, just to wrap this up, I want to thank you so much for finding your way here. I'm going to invite you to please share the love to any horsey soul sisters or like-minded souls. And I truly hope that you enjoy and are enriched with this series and this conversation. And so I will see you on the inside. Ciao for now. Namaste. It looks like we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the She Show, where
Hello.
where we are all about really connecting with women who love horses, women who work with, communicate with, are divine guardians with, women who are really just really connected to the spirit of the horse. And my name is Helena Das, and I am so excited today to be bringing you a very special guest speaker where we're going to dive into the conversation of how she's building a life with her horses, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to take a moment in case you are new to her to just read a brief bio. And this is Pam Kachelmeier, and I hope I said that correctly. Of the Equine Assisted Coaching Association and an early pioneer in the equine assisted coaching industry. She teaches students the skill set of becoming an equine assisted coach and how to build an equine assisted coaching business. She has a deep desire and curiosity to learn about the horse and their relationship with humans. She has a master's degree in counseling psychology with a concentration in equine assisted mental health and learning from Prescott College. She traveled the United States and learned many things about the horse. And it was when she met a Cheyenne chief, horse trainer, storyteller, movie and political consultant that she learned some unique ways of understanding and living with horses. And for me, I just love that. And I can't wait to hear, some of the things that came from that. But Pam, I just want to first say I'm so grateful to have you here with us. And I would love to ask you how you got into this work. How did you get here?
Yeah, how did I get here? How did I get to where I am today? Yeah, well, years ago, it fell into my lap, literally. I was working in the corporate world and I reached a plateau where the culture wasn't providing me a healthy type of lifestyle. The corporate world I worked in wasn't providing me what I needed to be fully human.
Hmm.
Industrialization was part of that picture. And I just knew and felt there was something missing. And I couldn't put a finger on it. I couldn't identify with it. It was that inner feeling. Something was trying to emerge out of me. There was also a curiosity with wanting to understand what is life all about. I just knew that the life I was living was not the life I was meant to live.
Hmm.
And eventually I started finding ways to help understand what I was feeling, because what I was feeling didn't make sense. I had a beautiful job. I had a good job. I was making an earning, a good earning, but yet my internal soul, my insides were just being drained to the point physically I was getting symptoms of overstressed lifestyle, and I knew there had to be a different way. So anyway, um, I used to just peruse the internet, not even knowing what I was looking for back in the early days, way back in 2007, before the internet what is even a hit like it is today. And I came across Prescott College in Arizona,
Mm.
and it was a brand new program being offered, a degree being offered where I could work directly with the horses and help people. And that jingled my bell. So to the point, I called the college. I spoke with a faculty member there. I loved what he had to say, and it resonated with me. And then 3 days later, I was enrolled and on their doorstep,
Wow.
literally.
Wow.
So then over the years, my life has progressed in a way where doors opened up for me, because after I signed up for the program, and it was during the training, because we learned on a ranch with horses, we learned a non-traditional way of working with horses, engaging with horses, that involved also working with humans, so they help humans find their way. So I was basically finding my way, learning things about myself through the aid of the horse. And so the rest is the story of how I got today, which I can't go into detail right now because I'd be able to write a book about it. But
I
that's
bet.
what got me where I am today. It opened up a lot of doors.
Yeah, well, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that you followed that nudge and listened to that inner kind of, something missing feeling. And for me, that is a lot of the aspect of the feminine, right? The unseen, the invisible. It's just that feeling. We can't, touch it, but we can feel it. And so I love
Yeah.
that you really love that you did that. The next question I have for you is, what is most alive for you right now in your life, in your work with horses, with your horses, anywhere. What is most alive
Mhm.
for you at this time?
Yeah. What brings me to life, where I feel alive, where I feel fully engaged in life, is when I'm with the horses, when I'm outside in nature, when I can get away from the overdoing, the constant having to do this, needing to get this done. Um, and I do that. I complete all that. I complete all my chores. I do what's necessary to live in life, because we still need to bring in an income and, do the things that we really don't enjoy doing. But then after I'm done with that, then I'm able to go spend time with the horses. And I purposely also create time to be with the horses because they're a top priority for me.
Yeah.
And so I learned to balance myself in a way where I'm able to do that. And if I don't feel like doing something because I'm self-employed, I am able to put that to the side for a little while so I can spend time in nature and learn about, Mother Earth, and learn the many things. That's because I live in the country. I am part of the land. I'm attached to the land. I live off the land. And I'm very grateful that I'm able to hear more and be part of nature than living in an inner city that's all concrete. So I'm very blessed in that way. So what brings me alive definitely is being out with the horses, because then they also help ground me and bring me into spirit. They bring me into my true essence and becoming a much more fuller human being.
I love that. And one of my most common sayings that I like to say is horses ground my soul. And what you described there, is perfectly, resonates for me. And yeah, and I love that you do prioritize that, because I know for me, when I started doing that, a lot of things shifted around my health and my well-being.
Oh, yeah.
And when I started prioritizing my self-care, which was horse time.
Yeah.
Mostly other things, but mostly the horse time, right? That was the sacred medicine for me. So yeah, I love to touch in on, I'm really curious because I have an affinity for Native American, this Cheyenne chief
Mhm.
person here, how he influenced you, and tell us a little more about that. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in 2000, when was this? 2007. This is quite a few years ago. Here again, just like the college, learning the skill set of partnering with horses to help people, that literally fell into my lap. Back in the day, when I call it the blind leading the blind, because it wasn't even known, in the world. And then after I started on that journey, then what else happened is I had to go out. I wanted to go out. I started traveling a lot more, learning about that skill set from other early pioneers. So we helped teach each other and learn from each other. But I've also always had a curiosity about the Native American ways. Why? I don't know. Well, there's a lot of reservations around here. There's one that's only an hour north of here. There's others that are in Wyoming, the northern part of the United States, all the way up into Canada, the Ojibwe, and things like that. And there's something about them that always intrigued me. But I really didn't go anywhere with that other than it really intrigued me. Well, when I started my practice, which was called back then Meaningful Life Counseling and Coaching, I worked with clients. And I thought, you know what? I have to get clients out of their comfort zone, as they say, instead of the face-to-face type of therapeutic engagement in a building. And because of the Native Americans too, and I always was interested in learning about the ways of frontiers, also colonization, what happened, how did our ancestors get to where they are today? But because I lost my ancestors' way of living life, even though I was raised Catholic, I was not exposed to true elders that helped me with my life, with anything that was ailing me. So I didn't have the true elder to go to as if I lived in the old country. And my belief is that a lot of these people today are feeling lost, and that's why a lot of them travel over to the European nations
Mm.
over there, the different countries. For me, it's European nations over there, the countries. And I always also had that in me. But what is it that drew me to the Native Americans? Well, the closest way of getting to that, to my original instructions, my original medicine, the culture that my ancestors handed down to me, it's in my blood, remains over there. A lot of that wasn't brought over here because it was lost. It got lost in the shuffle. So the closest thing I think that I could get to that was the Native Americans, so it drew me in. So again, anyway, then stuff started to happen. The wheels started to turn, and I had this thought. Again, it was just a thought to put up a teepee. And it was only a thought. It just didn't make any sense to me. It's like, I'm not Native American. Why should I put up a teepee? And then I let that go. And then like a few months later, I got that thought again, put up a teepee. And it still really didn't make any sense, but I was intrigued by it. And I thought, well, you know what? Why can't I do that? That would be something cool that I could do. I could educate my clients on that. We could sit down in the teepee with my clients and engage in that way before working with the horses. And then I thought, you know what? That would be really cool. So one day I called my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to buy a teepee. Put a teepee up. And she's like, okay. So she was always very supportive of me. So I did some research. Well, where do you get a teepee from? Do I have to build it out of canvas? How does this all work? So me being a researcher, I'm a digger. I need to understand stuff. So I started researching and I came across what's called the Colorado Yurt Company in Colorado, and they sell teepees. So I checked, they have a website. I checked out their website. I spoke to someone there. I placed an order and then I had it shipped to me. And then these poles were shipped to me on a flatbed. So then I erected the teepee, and then I started holding client sessions starting out in the teepee, and then the rest is history to this day. So to this day, I still hold like autumn equinox, summer solstice. I've worked with groups of people over the years, you name it, all different types of populations. And the people just love it. And so the other reason I like to use a teepee because it helps get people grounded, but it's also a place where we're sitting in a circle. And this is where the sitting in a circle is important, because then that also relates to the horses. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. It's all related. So then how I met Philip is shortly thereafter, I had the teepee put up, and here again, this literally fell into my lap where an ad came on the computer screen. Philip Whiteman Jr., Lame Deer, Montana, that's where he's from. He's going to be in Door County, which is only about an hour and a half north of me here. And he's going to be teaching what's called the medicine wheel model of working with horses. In other words, working with the spirit of the horse and the horse's spirit. So he had a 2-day workshop coming up, and I said, I'm going to that. And I did. And I met him with a group of other people. And then after that, for like 5 years, he would come to Door County periodically, because for him it was respite time. He's a chief on a reservation. He has huge responsibilities. He's also a consultant for like the government and then the movie industry and other things that he does. He's got a very full life. So he'd come for respite time. But when he came down here, he shared some sacred ways and the Cheyenne ways of how to work with the horse. So we got to go to a horse ranch. Wendy Wolt is a breeder of horses and cattle. So we got to stay on this ranch with the horses, and Philip was there. And that's where he shared a lot of his ways that were handed down to him orally. None of this is written. It's all taught about orally. And then he worked with the horses, and I saw a totally different way of working with the horse than the ways we've been taught by people that live in the United States. The Anglo-Saxon way, in other words. A lot of the people follow that. So that's how I met him. And there's more to the story than what I'm just sharing right now. But that's how these stories all evolve, is through actually learning hands-on, not reading from a book.
I love that. And I definitely want to hear about the horses and the circle connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool,
So,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. So you want to hear more about that? Okay. So again, talking about the
If you
horses.
want to go there, it's up to you.
Yeah, whatever you want to do, we can do that. We'll follow the flow here. And it starts out slow, because when he started teaching and sharing his ways, it was very foreign, because I was raised to be a linear thinker, mean industrialized in school. Like they say, you sit in rows and the teacher has the answer, but you have to find that answer, and then you got to offer the right answer. If not, you feel like, well, how come you don't know that? You're really stupid, and stuff like that. But what I like to say, during the industrialized age, and what the schools have done, is numbed us down and dumbed us down to the point we don't have that sacredness. They have controlled us in a way where we are not attuned to nature, but we're a part of nature, and we're 4 or 5 generations now removed from nature. Where horses live in nature every single day, 24/7. They don't know anything differently. They don't sit in a desk, looking at a computer screen. They don't have cell phones, where they're dialoguing with each other, talking. And so what the circular means is they're not a linear thinker. So we've been taught to be linear thinkers. If you look at the production line of the cars, boom, 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 and fast production. Now, working in the corporate world was the same way.
Yeah.
Mass produce, answer the phone 20 million times a day, multitask, And so what we've done is we brought that in when it comes to also training the horses. But we're not really training the horses. We're taming the horses. And we're taming the horses in a way, but we're domesticating them. But yet we don't understand them. We don't understand their language. So when you start to understand their language and the horse's way of being, the Native Americans feel up taught that they're circular thinkers. And the reason he says that is because, like what you're talking about, Helena, is the feminine side as well. See, the earth rotates to the right. It's circular. And then the woman, the feminine, also brings in many gifts where they try to understand the horse in a way that's much more gentle than the dominion, than the control. And see, because we've been industrialized, we've been taught to think in a certain way, what we do is we carry that into the horse, and we want to control the horse. We want the horse to do what we want to do, and we don't meet them, we don't understand them, we don't even wait, we don't have patience for them. So that's why being a circular thinker means they're more connected to nature and the energies that surround them, the earth, the electromagnetic field. It's all about sacredness and connection. And they live in that every day, 24/7. So they're naturally grounded, the smells, of the different aromas around them, just the smell of the earth. It's like we tell our clients to smell the horse because they're smelling the earth. That'll ground you, things like that. So they teach us, if we pay attention, how to become circular thinkers. And the other thing that they do, this is something Philip said, because they're circular thinkers, they're not linear thinkers. They know when something's going to happen like 3 days ahead of time. So if somebody particular is going to come and visit with them, or even if it's going to rain or the weather, see, they don't work on time like we do. We got to look at a clock. They're in time. They're in with time. So they don't have to look at a clock because they're so attuned to the cycles, the rotation, things like that in a circular way. And that's why a lot of times when horses walk too, they're going to walk to the right. Same thing with some other animals too. They all connected because they're attuned to the ways of how the universe works in nature and the spirits and things like that. So I'll stop right there with that. And see if you have any questions about any of that or anything else that wants to show up.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for explaining it that way. I really love that. And I often I'm very into kind of tuning into the moon and doing like my lunar, rituals and ceremonies. And I often like to say that my horses actually taught me to tune into the moon, because I would notice, like afterwards, that during, say, a full moon or, whatever, that they might be acting a little bit differently. And then I started like putting it together, and I'm lunar sensitive and, all these pieces, but they're so tuned in. And I love the way that you explained that whole circular thinking, and that, for me, that more expansive sacred connection, like you're saying, which brings in the feminine. So I really love that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
One more thing, a footnote. Another way of looking at it too, you have the sun and you have the moon. It's like
Mhm.
male and female. Because a lot of times people, they want equality between male and female. But another way to look at it is the male has their own purpose, the female has their own purpose, and they work together. That's the unity. So the earth, the moon and the sun, it works together. It's
Yeah,
not in competition with each other like we've been taught.
right.
They
In
work
harmony.
together. That's,
Yes, I
yeah,
love
where the
that.
horses are attuned with that unity piece, they work together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Love that. Love, love, love everything you're sharing. My next question that I have for you is, what are you most proud of with all the work that you've done with the horses and your clients and all the things? What are you most proud of? Tell us.
Yeah, how I was conditioned back in the early days and how far I've come to where I am today to understanding life and how much suffering there is in this world. I've learned to let go and accept the past, because I can blame, I can shame, I can point fingers, but that's not going to do me any good, nor the things that I feel within myself. If I hold on to that, that's going to radiate out and be projected out to other people.
Yeah.
So the more we can get out there and learn to forgive, because everybody else is only trying to find their own way. A lot of it has to do with the culture they're raised in, the financial situation they live in. There's a lot of poverty. Um, but if we can learn to not let that direct our lives, I'm very proud that I did not follow what they wanted for me. In other words, that linear way.
Yeah.
The government, and not only the government, but the people that control the government, the people that are extremely greedy. That's a sickness. There's a name for that too. The Native Americans have that's a sickness for a lot of the people. And they get caught up in that. So I'm very proud that I was able to move on and learn from it, because those were life lessons.
So
Oh,
beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, I love, it was interesting as you were sharing that to me. Some of the work that I do, I am very, very connected to what the symbolism of the dark horse, and kind of like, black sheep energy, but much deeper, because again, the darkness is the yin and the feminine and the magic, and there's astrology woven in as well. But as you were sharing, like, I feel like you're definitely a kindred spirit. And for me, like, the dark horse is like, we're paving our own, path. We're bucking the system. We're not going to follow, the sheep, right? Or the the
Mhm.
conventional path, that
Yeah.
conventional linear top down hierarchical path, right? We are really about creating a new way, I believe, as the kind of path pavers or change makers,
Mhm.
to, be, I like to say, bring heaven to earth, right? Like, we're really, that sacred, that connection, the community and collaboration. And so I really love what you're sharing there. So that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that process too is meant for us to help us get back to our original medicine, our original instructions. Because when we're born with a soul, whatever you want to identify with. And what we want more than anything is to have that freedom. We don't want to be controlled, but yet that's what we do with our horses. That's what we do with others because that's been done to us.
Yeah.
So, and those that are hurt are going to hurt others.
Yep.
Those that don't understand are going to hurt others. That's just behavior acting out. And that's what happens with the horses. So we bring in that old conditioned mindset in with the horses. The horses are bucking the system because they're like, that's foreign to me. I have no idea who you are or what you're doing. So when you start learning a different way, a new way of getting out of your comfort zone, whatever that is for you, you're going to learn also then to approach a different new way of how to relate with the horse and engage with the horse and connect and bond with the horse. Yeah, which then radiates out into your life. And I like to say, I've seen this and I realize this now too. The true gifted horse trainers, the horse people, are the ones that have gone through some very hard, difficult, harsh lives, like abuse, like you wouldn't believe. And when they start working with the horses a lot, and a lot of different horses too, it's the horses then that help gentle them, regulate them, and then they become also a leader in that they can feel, they can sense their inner changes from the rough road. Their inner changes take place and they feel different, they act different. They may have little shards yet that they need to release from the past, but they've changed and they've forgiven, the hardships that they had. But when you watch them and you're around them, and if you're an empath, especially, you're a very sensitive person, you can feel this horse trainer, a very positive horse trainer. They have this type of energy that vibrates out. Like they're very calm, they're very aware, they're have a different type of energy that's very calming and it radiates out. And to me, I can't help but think they picked that up from the horse because they're with them all the time. They're in that energy all the time. So it's almost as if they get engulfed in it and then it becomes them. And then the really good horse trainers try to go on and help others. Some of them have difficulty because they want to be with the horse. They understand the horse. The harder thing to do is to train the individual. Like they say, you got to train the individual to learn things about themselves before they work with the horse. So it's really about helping the human before the human can help the horse.
Yes. Oh, I agree with you. I mean, you're just sharing so much gold there, and something that I want to kind of highlight that's coming through for me as you were speaking. Two things before I transitioned out of my holistic vet practice and I started getting into like energy healing, and it was fascinating to where I started noticing sort of, how much the horses there was this overlap, right, of shared energy, and even on a physical level, like even, illness or disease and whatnot. And I remember like a number of incredible cases where I worked with the humans and didn't even touch the horse. Like maybe it was a rescue and it was skittish and I couldn't get near it or whatever. But when that horse is human, when I did the energy work with the human and the clearing, the horse got better. Like, so, like that connection. So I love what you're saying about like, it's the human, and for me, one of the reasons I transitioned out of my vet work was partially because I realized the horses were the medicine, but I had this clear message that I could I could help more horses through their humans, right? Than trying to go out and help all the horses, right? If I connected with the humans with the horses, I would actually be indirectly helping the horses. So I love that you shared that. And then there was another piece when you were talking about the trauma that I
Mhm.
really resonate with. Part of my background, I'm part of the Me Too movement. I grew up in extremely dysfunctional family, alcoholic father, all of that, and grew up in the city in the Bronx, right? So there was no like,
Mm.
reason for me to actually be connected with animals or horses, but I was the one in the family drawn to them because of, I think, my background. And at one point, I can remember having a conversation with a girlfriend about my obsession with the horses and having this like aha moment that because they are prey animals and I felt much like a prey most of my life, like I was running all the time, right? And because I had all that trauma I was, holding in my body, that there was this vibrational resonance that I had with the horses that allowed me to connect with them, even though I wasn't brought up in a family with horses. Like I can remember clients telling me, oh, you didn't grow up with horses. And I was like, no, it was a late bloomer. And yeah, and I think for me, the women connection, because women have been, suppressed for years, right? And that's getting better, but there's still, like you said, an imbalance. And I think that's why, as far as I can tell, it seems like women have a very different and special bond with the horses. And I'm not saying there aren't male trainers or men that love horses and have, I'm not saying that, but I do think there's just something there about women and horses and that vibrational energy because we get each other on that soul level.
Yeah.
That, yeah, and I just love what you shared. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of echo that.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's really beautiful. So yeah, I would love to, we're almost at time here, ask you if there is anything else you would like to add before we wrap up, and then we can tell people how to find you. I know you're zooming in from Wisconsin, so we'll give you them all the information, but is there anything else that like, that maybe we didn't touch on, or just an afterthought that you feel called to share, in this conversation?
Yeah, a big piece of all of this too is the self-love piece. The feminine, we're known as nurturers. And we like to nurture, the male side of things, the masculine side, usually they're fixers. The men like to fix things. Where women, we've been known as caretakers, nurturers, and a lot of times when we think about ourselves, we put ourselves on the back burner, meaning we take care of a lot of other things, but not ourselves. So in the Native American indigenous way, I think one of the ways we can help love ourselves better is when it comes to food
Mm,
and to eat more healthy, in that go to like a farmer's market and get healthier food and then bring the food home. And when it comes to mealtime, a lot of people don't sit around the table anymore and share in the food. Now, something we did, and this really came to light more so through what I'm about to talk about than any other time, because I was raised, my parents were self-employed. My mother hardly had time to cook or bake. I didn't learn how to cook or bake because my parents were self-employed. We just didn't have the time. So everything was rushed through.
mm,
Well, when Philip Whiteman was here, we also used to sit in a sweat lodge. And I
mm,
learned how to build a sweat lodge. And I learned the importance of a sweat lodge and the protocol. So the sweat lodge is a form of purification, cleansing, releasing the things that are not healthy for us. It's a way to share in a sacred place where you're trusted. You can share with others and you release this, pent up stuff that you hold on to if you can. So it's also a challenge because it gets very hot in there. So you'll learn then to work with the body and not the brain, because the brain a lot of times goes into a fear mode when you go into that hot heat. But you can learn how to work with the brain and how to work with it. And that is part of learning how to work with your body. And it does work. So anyway, we sit in the sweat lodge for like 3-4 hours. We start like at 10 o'clock. We don't end until maybe like 10, 11, 12, 1, sometimes even 2 because of certain protocol. And so during the evening too, you listen, and this is all done at Wendy Wolt's place on a horse ranch. Now, mind you, there's horses in the background because she's also a horse breeder. So especially in the springtime, when we went and did this, you could hear the horses whinny with each other, and especially the young colts and the young fillies, only like 6 months old, 4 months old, 8 months old. And when we're sitting in the sweat lodge, and sometimes it can get very quiet, but imagine this, it's the middle of the night, no wind, very calm. We had an eagle visit with us all day long, just watching us, part of the activity. But anyway, we're sitting in the sweat lodge, and it's like a full moon, like you're talking about. The energy of the full moon is in there as well. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, too, we're sitting in there dialoguing, doing what we're doing when you're in the sweat lodge, if you've ever been in one. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you hear, you hear these horses whinnying all the time. And I'm like, and when we were done with the sweat lodge, I asked Philip, I'm like, why were the horses whinnying like that all the time? And he said, because they're spirits and they are communicating with the other spirits. And you normally don't hear that during the day like you do at nighttime. But because they just came from the mother's womb, which is creation, the mother's womb is creation. It's feminine. It's the creator. It's God. It's whatever you want to refer to it as. And they are so pure, and they just came from that. And so they're still in tune with that. And young kids are too. Human kids are like that too. But then as the child grows, they no longer believe in that, or things they're made fun about, right? Because they want to fit in with the rest of the other people. So that really opened my mind, number one. Then number two, when we're done with the sweat lodge, see, there was normally a group of people, mainly women, not so many men, mainly women. We'd get together. It was the same group that we got together with Philip every time. So we got to know each other. But every time we got together too, we each would bring a dish to pass. Because when we were done with the sweat lodge, we would have a healthy meal. And you would bring something healthy to eat. So the women always did the cooking. The men were not involved with the cooking. Because the women, when it comes to cooking in the kitchen, when we're done with the sweat lodge, you're giving love to the food. You're putting in nurturing the food. You're working together. It's the feminine side that is bringing in the food, the nurturing things. So in other words, you're putting the love into the food. Then when we sit down, everybody sits around the table and all the food is on the table. We're all in each other's energy field and we're sharing in this special meal. It's like a celebration of sorts. But what we do is, because there's love in the food, that food is made. Then before we can eat, what Philip does is he'll ask one of the women to put the food on the plate. Then he'll walk the plate outside to feed the spirits. And what he does, though, is he'll maybe take a bite of the food and leave an imprint and then feed it to the spirits. So what we ingest is an imprint onto the food of love. And then we ingest that food, and we're ingesting love when we eat that food. So that's why, to me, it's so important today now to get back to sharing that love and taking a time out, with making the food, preparing the food, and then you sit down, but then you also have a prayer and the blessings. And that needs to come back. The gratitude needs to come back. And we need to share this with each other. We need to become more village minded, more community minded, not so urbanized. So I'm going to end right there because I can go on and on and on. And again, when people are ready, they're going to listen, they're going to pay attention. Until the pain exceeds the reward, people will not do something different. So
yeah, I love what you're sharing. There's a Hopi, I think it was a Hopi prayer that I have in my file somewhere, but the line that always I remember is, we are the ones we are waiting for, right? And
yeah,
it's anyway, I don't have it handy and I don't have it memorized, but
yeah.
this is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing so much of your wisdom and your love and your experience with us. I'm so honored that I got to share some time with you, and that the listeners will get to also, be enlightened from your wisdom. And where can they find you? I don't know, your website, or where's the best place for people to find you? If they want to learn more about you or connect with you, or come to a sweat lodge in Wisconsin, right? You're in Wisconsin.
Mhm. Yeah, so I do have a website. I have the business, which is called the Equine Assisted Coaching Association. And then the web address is equineaca.com. equineaca.com. Otherwise, I have my YouTube channel as well. I have fun making YouTube videos with my horses. I like to also tap into the creative side of things. It's so much fun doing that. But that's under Pamela Kachelmeier. Pamela Kachelmeier. Yeah.
Beautiful,
And of
beautiful.
course, the Facebook pages. Yeah. So
Awesome. Well, I remember the first time that I saw your website, I almost thought of the plant, the echinacea, which,
oh,
the way just the spelling of it, until I realized, what it stood for. And
yeah.
I just think that's interesting because of your connection with, obviously, the earth and Mother Nature and all the things. So, but anyway, thank you so much, Pam, for being with
Thank
us.
you, Helena. Yeah.
I'm so grateful. And yeah, so to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Please share the love, and we will see you next time. And I'm gonna just stop the recording here. Okay. Oops.